Hey everyone, don't forget to hit that like button, smash that subscribe, and leave us a comment down below.
Okay.
All right, so today
Yeah.
we are diving deep into the world of Abercrombie and Fitch.
Ooh, yeah.
You ready to unpack the story of a brand
All right.
that was once like the epitome of cool?
Yep.
But
Had a pretty dark side.
oh yeah, it's fascinating how Abercrombie and Fitch back in the late 90s, early 2000s
Oh, yeah.
wasn't just selling clothes, they were selling like an image.
Yeah.
An exclusive club you could only join if you looked a certain way.
And today we are going behind the perfectly lit storefronts
Yeah.
and the chiseled abs
Yeah.
with a first-hand account from Emil Adolphus,
Right.
a former Abercrombie and Fitch model.
Yep.
His article takes us right into the heart of the company's culture during its peak.
Yeah.
So buckle up because it gets pretty wild.
Right from the start, Adolphus lays out the very specific look
Yeah.
that Abercrombie and Fitch was obsessed with.
Mm-hmm.
Thin white athletic.
And conventionally attractive.
Right.
It was like a carefully crafted formula designed to create an aura of exclusivity and aspiration.
Almost like they were saying, hey, if you want to be part of the cool kids club,
Yeah.
you got to look like this.
And Adolphus doesn't shy away from the implications of this. He even says, very quickly, I came to learn that it meant that I was a affable.
Okay.
It's a pretty shocking statement.
Yeah.
But it really gets to the heart of what was going on beneath the surface of this carefully crafted brand image.
Yeah. I mean, hearing that really makes you think about the messages the brand was sending,
Yeah.
both intentionally and unintentionally.
Oh, yeah.
And Adolphus goes on to explain how this obsession with the look went way beyond just the clothes.
Absolutely. Mike Jeffries, the CEO at the time, was notorious for his quote about wanting to target the cool kids and not wanting everyone wearing the clothes. And that philosophy really permeated the entire company culture.
So employees, particularly those like Adolphus, who were hired as models, weren't just there to fold clothes and ring people up. They were expected to embody the Abercrombie brand. Always smiling positive and basically living the Abercrombie lifestyle.
Totally.
Wonder what that meant.
It's almost like they were actors in a carefully staged performance
Oh, wow.
of coolness. Adolphus even talks about how during the holidays, he was instructed to stand around shirtless,
What?
spritzing cologne on customers.
It's wild, right? Like you can almost picture the scene, the dim lighting, the pulsating music, the scent of cologne hanging in the air.
Totally.
And these beautiful people just casually hanging out, looking impossibly cool.
Yeah.
It's almost unsettling how effectively they were manipulating the desire for human connection to sell a lifestyle. It wasn't just about the clothes, it was about the experience they manufactured.
Exactly. They were tapping into that very human need to belong, to be seen as attractive and desirable. And for teenagers especially who are already grappling with insecurities and trying to figure out who they are, that kind of messaging can be incredibly powerful.
Thinking back to my own teenage years, I can totally see how I might have fallen for this. It's like they were dangling this image of coolness and exclusivity, and you felt like if you could just get your hands on those clothes, you could somehow be a part of it.
And that's the brilliance and the danger of their marketing strategy.
Totally.
They were creating a fantasy, a world that was aspirational, but ultimately unattainable for most people.
So we've got this picture of Abercrombie and Fitch at its peak, this hugely successful brand with a really calculated and some might say manipulative approach to selling its image. But as we'll see, this story takes a pretty dark turn when we start to look at what was happening behind the scenes.
Exactly.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break.
So while the Abercrombie image might have been alluring to customers, Adolphus's experience reveals a much darker side to maintaining that carefully constructed facade.
So, okay, so let's talk about what was happening behind the scenes. Adolphus talks about these regular photo submissions that employees had to send to the home office.
It's almost dystopian, right?
Right.
They had to send pictures of themselves so the higher-ups could,
oh, wow,
track their appearance and make sure they were still fitting that narrow definition of Abercrombie-worthy.
Imagine the pressure of constantly having your appearance scrutinized.
Yeah, and it gets even worse. There were secret shoppers.
What?
Sent to stores to judge employees on how well they embodied the brand.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
like this constant pressure to perform to fit into this incredibly specific mold.
It's crazy to think that people were essentially being punished for not being thin, white, or conventionally attractive enough.
And this wasn't just speculation or hearsay. Abercrombie and Fitch faced numerous lawsuits alleging discriminatory practices based on appearance and race.
Wow.
It wasn't just a few isolated incidents. It points to a systemic issue
Yeah.
within the company's culture.
It's like this whole cool kids philosophy created a culture
Right.
where certain people were favored
Yeah.
and others were marginalized.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, even with all this going on behind the scenes, why was Abercrombie and Fitch still so appealing to some people?
That's a really interesting point. Adolphus talks about how, despite all the problematic aspects,
Yeah.
the brand seemed to offer a sense of belonging and validation,
Okay.
particularly for gay men
Right.
who were often marginalized elsewhere.
It's a complex issue, right? On the one hand, you have this incredibly manufactured and frankly harmful image being pushed.
Right.
But on the other hand, for some people, it offered something they weren't finding in other spaces.
Adolphus quotes a former coworker who said, wearing the clothes made you cool, made you feel like one of the people from the pictures.
Yeah.
It's like they were buying into the fantasy, even though it was ultimately harmful.
It speaks to the power of marketing and the human need for belonging and how companies can exploit those desires for profit.
Yeah.
They were selling a sense of identity, and for people who felt like they didn't fit in elsewhere,
Right.
that was incredibly appealing.
So we've got this picture of Abercrombie and Fitch at its peak, this hugely successful brand built on a very specific image and some questionable practices.
Right.
But then things take an even darker turn with the allegations against Mike Jeffries.
This is where it gets really unsettling. Jeffries was accused of some very serious things, including sex trafficking and exploitation of aspiring models.
Wait, so how does that tie into everything we've been talking about?
Well, think about it. Jeffries was obsessed with this idea of targeting the cool kids, the attractive people.
Okay.
And the allegations suggest that this desire for exclusivity went far beyond just marketing strategies.
It's chilling, honestly. It makes you question how much of what was happening at Abercrombie and Fitch was just about selling clothes.
Right.
And how much of it was about something much darker.
And it really forces us to confront the dark side of the fashion industry, where power dynamics can be exploited and vulnerable people can be taken advantage of.
So what happened after all of this came to light? Did Abercrombie and Fitch try to sweep it under the rug?
Well, Jeffries left the company in 2015, and Abercrombie and Fitch has been trying to rebrand ever since.
Okay.
They've toned down the overt sexuality in their advertising. They're promoting a more inclusive image, and they're trying to distance themselves from the Jeffries era.
It's amazing how much the brand has shifted.
Yeah.
You go into an Abercrombie store now, and it's a completely different vibe.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder how much has really changed. Are we still, as a society, captivated by that allure of exclusivity and a carefully crafted image?
Yeah.
Or have we learned from the mistakes of the past?
Yeah, it's a question worth pondering, isn't it? Like, how much has
Yeah.
really changed in the fashion industry? I mean, we see brands trying to be more inclusive now,
Yeah.
but are they doing it because they genuinely care? Or is it just like a clever marketing tactic to appeal to a wider audience?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's something consumers need to be aware of.
Right.
We can't just blindly accept what brands are telling us. We have to look beyond the surface
Yeah.
at their actions, at their hiring practices, at who they're actually representing in their campaigns.
It's like we have to be more discerning consumers.
Yeah.
Right? We have a responsibility to support brands that align with our values and to hold them accountable
Right.
when they fall short.
Absolutely. And remember, our wallets have power.
Mm-hmm.
Every time we make a purchase, we're casting a vote for the kind of world we want to live in.
Speaking of accountability, let's talk about Mike Jeffries. Where does he fit into all of this now? Last we heard, he was facing some pretty serious charges. Right, and while he hasn't publicly addressed the allegations, his legal team has indicated that they plan to fight the charges.
It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But I think Adolphus makes a really interesting observation about Jeffries' recent court appearance. Apparently, he showed up still clinging to that Abercrombie aesthetic.
Really?
Hair plugs, tight face V-neck sweater shorts.
Wow.
Adolphus says he looked like an Abercrombie model whose time had passed.
It's almost poetic, isn't it? Like he's trapped in this image.
Yeah.
That he himself created this image that ultimately led to his downfall.
And I think it speaks to the fleeting nature of beauty and the danger of building an entire empire on something so superficial. Adolphus ends the article with a really thought-provoking line. Affable is in the eye of the beholder.
Ooh.
It's a powerful reminder that beauty is subjective and that the standards we uphold can be incredibly damaging.
It's a perfect way to end such a complex and disturbing story, and it leaves us with a lot to think about. What are the true costs of chasing an image? Who benefits from these narrow definitions of beauty? And how can we create a more inclusive and accepting world where everyone feels valued and respected?
I don't know about you, but this deep dive has left me feeling a lot of things. Shocked, intrigued, a little bit disturbed, and definitely more aware. It's amazing how one article can open up so many important conversations.
I agree. It's a reminder that there's always more beneath the surface, and it's up to us to dig deeper, ask questions, and challenge the status quo.
Well said. This has been an incredible deep dive. Before we go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode. And until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deep.